All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Nurse Charms Live. Yes, we are live. I have my two guests. This is going to be a great show tonight. Sorry, we are just a few minutes late. We were having technical difficulties. Technology is so undependable, but here we are. So thanks again. I want everyone to share this video. Please share this video so everyone can learn. We're 60, I think it's like 60 days or close to 60 days. I don't know. We're getting close and close to, November 3rd. So I'm doing these political series to, help just educate everyone. Getting out the vote is so important. Um, you know, Presenting the different issues that are important to everyone that everyone should be aware of. So just some of those things are reasons why I'm doing this. So hey, I already see some people on the feed. Yes, you are free to comment and chime in, ask us whatever questions you want to know. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Introduce my guest. Alecia, go ahead and introduce yourself. I always have my guests introduce themselves. So go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Sure, but wait, where's my intro music? No, I'm just kidding.
I said, oh my God, log out if they hear that.
From Trump, I'm just kidding. So my name's, it's complicated. My name's Alecia Hamilton on Facebook, but that was my stage name for acting, and that's my father's last name. But basically, I am a single mom of three. I have three beautiful children, Allison, Alexander, and Adriana. They are 14, 16, and 20. I've been a teacher. This is my 18th year teaching math. And I am also an author of a math series that took me about a decade to write. And I finally just published it last year. And that just was recently picked up by a couple companies. So that's exciting. And so I'm kind of doing two things right now in my life in terms of teaching and being a businesswoman and balancing that with motherhood. And it's a fun ride and I'm enjoying it.
Go ahead. And that sounds awesome. Yeah. Wow, that's such an inspiring story. Good for you. Von, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Wow. I grew up in a little place called Saginaw, Michigan. Graduated from Saginaw Art the Hill and went on to Eastern Michigan University on a basketball scholarship. Met my wife there in 1989. We've been married we got married in 1994, been together for 31 years, married 26. We have one son. And I'm not like, so funny because I didn't really want to get involved in politics. My grandfather was mayor of Saginaw, but I got involved in politics when my mentor, right, who was a conservative, right, we would just have these discussions back and forth, and I would be like, Bill, I cannot believe that you think some of the things that you do. And so he would say things, and I would just go back and research the things that he would say. And so that's how I kind of got, I'm probably a newbie, but that's kind of how I got my start in politics, is because I kind of disagreed with my mentor. And then all of the other mentors I had, I was like, you really believe that?
Yeah.
But, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, hon.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping ahead. Thanks for jumping ahead and saying that, because that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you guys, why do you care about politics? So you can go ahead and answer that question now. So everybody just kind of has some background, like, okay, these people talking about politics. How did they get into politics, or what do they know? Go ahead, Alecia.
So, it's just kind of strange. I think just recently, the past 4 years since Trump has, been in office, I really started becoming more active in terms of, just on my page and in politics, and just having conversations with people in real world and in online conversations. And I've been a conservative my whole life. I've never voted for a Democrat. Over 20 years voting. And I just feel like there's so many misconceptions about being a conservative. And, being part of the minority, I feel like as a Black woman, I want to share my experience, in terms of why I chose to be a conservative for all these years and why that's important to me and why I'm going to speak out and not be afraid to share my beliefs, because at the end of the day, that's what makes America so amazing, is that we can have our personal beliefs and our opinions and freedoms and religion and whatever it may be. And we shouldn't be afraid to share that and to be bold with that. And we should honor and respect one another more. And I feel like this day and age, it's not really happening, and people are being canceled and silenced. And so I want to speak out so that my voice is heard. I think that's important. And I think that we should be teaching our children that and our students that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. We're going to get into that in just 1 second. But first, Vaughn, I want you to let me know, where do you sit on the political spectrum? Or are you keeping that a secret, or you gonna let us know? You're Republican, Democrat, independent?
No, listen. I've tend to, in the times past, right? I was like the guy who went to church because everybody said it was the right thing to do. And so my vote was basically like that. Okay. Now, however, I love to have religious discussions. And so for me, I always try to look at both sides. Okay. And so me being a born again believer, right? I like to sit down and I like to listen to the Muslim. I like to listen to their doctrine. I like to listen to the Jewish person, and I want to get their input. Now, I tend to draw my own conclusion. And so for me, I tend to have voted Democratic for the most part. And then I realized that most of my mentors who didn't look like me voted Republican. And so I would ask questions, I remember when a friend of mine, I went over to his house, and he had a picture of Ronald Reagan up, and I was like, Bill, you got a picture of Ronald Reagan up? And he was like, yeah, Ronald Reagan is my hero. And I was like, wow, because growing up as a kid, right, Ronald Reagan wasn't a hero, right, at least from the mainstream, right, towards Black America. And so for me, I just start listening to, the discussions. And and when I say I got some good mentors, I do. One of my, probably my head mentor, is friends of David Ramsey and Elmer Towns, who was co-founder of Liberty University. And so just to have the discussions and to see the difference of experiences is huge. And so you take those in, and then you form your own conclusion based on the information that you have. So I voted for Republicans and I voted for Democrats.
Okay. So it sounds like you kind of just vote on policy. It doesn't really matter what party.
Well, true. I do. I would say, well, who would be the better candidate?
Okay, so let's just get right into it. First, I want to talk about this lesser evil argument. This is something that's been going on for decades, and we see it right now between Trump and Biden. There's this whole perception, Trump is a racist, Trump is gonna be like Hitler, he's so horrible. And Biden was, with Obama, and the whole world loved Obama. So it's like, pick Biden for whatever reason. So what's your take on this whole, vote for the lesser evil argument? Does that really make logical sense? Why feel like you forced to vote? Because Candace Owens, it was a couple years ago, she did this whole the video, it went viral, something like that. But her whole thing is the Democratic plantation. And then they said it again at the Republican National Convention. I forget his name, but he mentioned it there. So there's this whole rumor or conspiracy that Black people just feel like they have to vote Democrat, whether you like the candidate or not, you just have to vote Democrat. And because it's just something we've been programmed with our whole life. So now that you have then some people don't really want to vote for him, but they feel like, they're just going to vote for him just because that's the Democrat candidate. People don't want to cross over, like how you say you focus on the policy issues. It don't really matter the candidate sometimes. Some people scared to cross over and vote for Trump because he may have some better policies because they so stuck on voting Democrats. So just give me your take, whoever wants to go first, on this whole lesser evil thing. Is it logical? And how should people be voting? Because I see that on social media. People ask me that all the time, like, well, what should I do? Who should I vote for? Because they feel like they're stuck. They don't want to vote for Trump and they don't want to vote for Biden either. So,
I mean, I'll jump in. I think that's kind of only applicable if you really feel that both people are evil. It doesn't apply if you actually agree with someone's policies, if you actually don't think they're racist, if you actually think they're not evil. So the lesser of two evils is kind of a moot point, in my opinion, in this particular political season right now with Biden versus Trump. I think the perception is because we've had such a horrible representation of who Donald Trump is. I mean, before he was running for president, he was, quote from Obama, the American dream. He was in interviews with Oprah, people praising him, Black rappers, artists, Snoop, you name it. Not only that, he won awards with other Black leaders. And so, to say that he's a racist just because now he's running as president, with all of those years behind him in the history of who he is and what he's done, I think is ridiculous. But I think that the media has done a really superb job. I mean, kudos to them for painting him this way. And the sad thing is that people really just believe whatever they hear on mainstream media. And I just think it's ridiculous. I think his record should speak for himself. I think that when you look at what he's promised, and that is to create jobs for people in the inner cities and every American, right? Opportunity zones with over 60 billion with the B, I'm sorry, invested into, at-risk areas for people that are building their businesses, from apartments to other places so that people can get jobs. When you look at the unemployment rate before COVID for Blacks, Latinos, for women, just superb numbers there. So, I would say talk is cheap, but, let's look at the record, because what results you produce is what we should be looking at, and not the rhetoric from mainstream media, because they have an agenda. It's very clear, and they hate him. It's very clear. And they're winning with that rhetoric, and that's sad. That's also clear.
Von, what's your take?
Wow, I don't know if I wanted. Yeah, I don't know if I wanted to address what she said or the question that you have. And the reason I say that is this: I think we need to become educated voters. Okay.
Right.
And so the idea of the lesser of two evils. I mean, if I would have told the Republican Party prior to 1940s that, did you know that the Democratic Party was going to be a party that was inclusive and include people of color, including women, that Republican Party would have been like, you have to be kidding me, right? Now, if I would have took that same Democratic Party and I told that Democratic Party, that was that party of the racism and Jim Crow and segregation, if I told that Democratic Party, do you know at one point you're going to have Blacks and minorities and women a part of Congress, that Democratic Party would have said, you have to be kidding me. And so for me, what I try to tell people to do is you have to educate yourself, right? I do want to address a couple of things that she said when she talked about Donald Trump. I've been following Donald Trump as an entrepreneur for a while, right? And I think I told you, I remember when him and Michael Jackson was bidding on casinos, right? I remember when he traveled the world with Muhammad Ali. I remember the Snoop Dogg's and the Biggies and how he was an icon, right? Of how he was an icon in the African-American community, especially among hip hop, right? I remember when Uncle Luke and Eddie Murphy and Mike Tyson went to his party, and they would be, they were just always there. But what we have to understand when we start talking about people is that behind closed doors, right? People are a lot different than what they really appear. And so I remember Tupac, if anybody got Donald Trump right, it was Tupac in his prophetic statements about Donald Trump, right? But the reality of it is, yeah, Donald Trump, he did receive awards with Muhammad Ali. He did receive awards with Rosa Parks. Donald Trump did do certain things. He did give money to Operation Push and Jesse Jackson and all those things. However, the one thing that I found out, just like the conversations I had with my friend, I have been knowing him a long time, but it wasn't until things start, it's almost like when things start challenging his worldview that I begin to have a different perspective about him. Right. And you see it right now in interracial relationships. You have people who've been married to people and been married to people for a while. And then they come to realize, oh, my gosh, I didn't know you felt that way about my culture. And so you could be a person like Donald Trump, who has been a part of the hip hop community and done things with African Americans, just like you could be married to a person and still, right, somehow still have this feeling about that that you guys are still here. And how do we know that? Well, I don't have to listen to mainstream media, because I want to say something about mainstream media. When it comes to Black achievement and success, mainstream media has always been biased, right? That's why we had things like BET. So to talk about mainstream media, Black folks have been navigating a biased media for a long time. I mean, this is nothing new to us. So when people say mainstream media, I'm like, I know how to navigate, right? Truth from fiction. The problem is when we don't educate ourselves.
I definitely agree
so here's
on that note. Go ahead. I was just gonna.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. Nobody wants to talk about how Biden eulogized Storm Thurmond. He was a segregationist. He was part of the Dixiecrat. They were the people that were the racists. So he eulogizes, and that was his mentor. So he spoke all these high regards of him. And then Biden, he makes racist comments all the time. I mean, he said you ain't Black. What did he say about Obama? I mean, he's just made so many different statements. He recently made a statement about Black people not as diverse. So I mean, he's what they consider, what people want to say, a closet racist. And then Donald Trump, I guess they say, is blatant racist. But nobody can give an example of how Donald Trump has made, like, when you call somebody a racist, what racist policies has Donald Trump made? What nobody can say anything about.
None. He's done the opposite. He actually took Biden's rules and laws and flipped it.
People want to call Biden. People want to call Trump a racist, but they don't want to call Biden a racist, and that just seems so hypocritical to me. So that is the problem I have, and you'll probably see me a lot on Facebook. And I'm like, come on, we're going to keep this all the way 100. You cannot say one person is racist, not give an example, and then not acknowledge the other person. So that's the issue that I'm having. It's like a hypocrisy. Go ahead.
I agree, and I don't think our feelings should be even part of the equation. We shouldn't be talking about our feelings or their feelings. It should be what is on record. What is their policy? What have they done? Have they incarcerated more people, or have they implemented laws like the First Step Act? Have they redone the opposite and actually helped with oppressive laws? And so I just think it's ironic, because basically Trump is undoing some of the racist policies that Biden has apologized for. And yeah, you're right. You know what? When we talk about parties, it was mentioned earlier, Von mentioned, like, who would have thought this party would be representing these people? And I don't think that's factual, because here's the thing. When you look at the Civil Rights Acts and you look at who voted for which, and you look at Senator Byrd, and you look at Al Gore Sr., and you look at how only 1 out of 21 senators actually switched parties, quote unquote, you'll see that the same Democrats then are the same Democrats now. They're just slick with it. Their oppressive ways are not out in the open to you. They are not explicit. They are taking different ways and being creative to oppress people. We see that in education. We see it with, hey, you know what? We're going to be opposing school choice and vouchers, which actually work. And as an educator, I'm like, yeah, I look at the data, I look at the stats, and I look at New York University, and I look at 17,000 kids who go there, and I look at the 20% increase in their scores, and I look at how incarceration rates are decreased with those kids, and I look at how pregnancy rates are decreased, and I look at the lottery system, and I say, if we're truly for our children in terms of this whole prison to pipeline, or, school to pipeline, prison to school to prison pipeline, when we say that exists, like that's a thing, then why would we be against school choice vouchers and things like that? It doesn't make sense. So the slickness of it is, we can say, we're going to be for you by giving you more welfare or giving you more programs or making the government bigger because we care. But that is actually just oppressing our people more. You're not giving them the freedom because you're making government bigger. You're making your programs bigger. You're giving them dangling just a little bit to make them happy with some welfare. And then you are literally oppressing them because they're staying on that welfare. You're making it so that they're not inclined to marry. We look at what happened, and if you study Thomas Sowell, you'll see and understand his ideology in terms of what the welfare state has actually done to our people. And at the end of the day, they are still that oppressive party. They're just slick with it now.
Well, you know what? And for me, what I try not to do is I realize that neither party is perfect. And so when we start talking about them and us, I think we lose that battle. In reference to the switch, all right, and people talk about this, the South was predominantly run by Democrats. That is a fact. Okay. Someone says, Vaughn, you're really projecting. I think everything I said is based on truth. I haven't even bashed one party or the other party. But if we really look at the South, right, those were ran by Democrat states. Right now, that same South is no longer ran by Democratic states, but is ran by Republicans. Those are facts. I can't say that, right? Now, the North which was predominantly Republican for the most part, now is controlled basically by Democrats. So when people say there haven't been a switch, well, yeah, it has been a switch. Now, in terms of Strom Thurmond and Robert Byrd, right? I don't want to have, you can shake your head, but the reality of the South, right? Those people still want to hold and cling to the culture of the Confederate flag. That same, but again, you could have your view.
Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that?
Wait,
I mean,
well,
if they're so racist,
excuse me. I did not interrupt you. Excuse me.
Sorry,
please.
I thought we could go back and forth.
No, I wasn't. We wasn't going back and forth, right? But I think that's what we have to do. Number one, we have to educate ourselves about the policies, right? Now, in terms of Joe Biden, and I'm going to make a comment that most people probably disagree with, right? But the reality of most people or who don't look like me has a problem, right? Because they were brought up in a system that, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, taught that white was right, black was cursed. Those are facts. Okay. I mean, we just had really hidden figures. We just had Chad Boozer, he just died. Black Panther. I mean, we're still dealing with this stuff, right? So if we look to a particular party to solve our issues in the Black community, right, I think we missed that boat. Okay. I think it has to be up to us. I mean, we have to do it. Now, in terms of, you said that Donald Trump hasn't done anything that was racist. Well, I don't just have to look at his policies. We could talk about how he allowed Jeff Sessions to overturn some of the things, whether it was mandatory sentence. We could talk about the expansions of private prisons. We could talk about, we can give him credit on the HBCUs and his donating, but he cut how much in terms of Pell Grants? So now while you give me money to a HBCU, you cut the Pell Grants, I think it's what, $250 million, but he cut Pell Grants by like what, maybe in the billions. How do most Blacks go to school? They use Pell Grants. Now, I do believe that people should have school choice. And I think what we have to do is we have to take the best of both parties and we have to implement it. And while we're looking at the president, we need to begin to look at local, we need to begin to look at state. And for the people who are talking, you need to actively get involved and pursue stuff. It can't just be about the person in the White House is going to fix everything. That isn't the case.
I agree with that. And that's why I think we should make government smaller and have more freedoms. But to your point about the South, I just think it's ironic that if the South is so racist, then racist white people elect Tim to the Senate as their senator for their state as a Black man, Tim Scott. And I just think,
well,
you know what? If they were so racist, and the reason why they did that is because they vote policies, not how much pigment you have in your skin. We shouldn't be voting for people based on their pigmentation level. I think we can all agree with that. But so I think that debunks part of the idea. Also, not only that, but let's look at what the laws are, not how people act in this world, because that's one thing we can't control. However, our laws do control us to a certain extent because we are guided in a sense by those. So I think that you'd have to try to come up with a racist or oppressive law that we currently have on the books. And the fact is we don't. We have the opposite. We have Pell Grants for anyone right now who wants it and needs it. They're not denying Pell Grants to anyone who cannot afford college. So the fact of the matter is a lot of people are not utilizing the Pell Grants. Right now, if you are poor in America, you go to college and get a bachelor's degree for free. And I know that because I did that. I grew up poor and I grew up with a single mom. And I went and started at the community college and then transferred and took advantage of that. And that's something that you can still do. And that's not being denied by anyone. So the fact of the matter is our laws are important. There aren't any oppressive laws. And I think we should try to segregate, no pun intended, people's feelings versus what the laws are. Because we got to point to policy over how individuals act in society. We can't always dictate that.
No, you know what? I don't think we can, but you talk about policy. Jeff Sessions instituted when President Obama and Eric Holder, they want to get rid of mandatory sentencing, right? I mean, they did. Jeff Sessions put in place that says if you are suspected of drug dealing, right, or wrongdoing, we could seize your property, your cash, and your home, and you don't even have to be charged. Well, the reality of it is we talk about the 1994 crime bill in the Biden administration that Mitch McConnell said didn't go far enough. Newt Gingrich said didn't go far enough, right? I mean, who do you think that the overturn of what Eric Holder and Obama put in place, who do you think that's going to impact? That's going to impact us. Now, in terms of Tim Scott, you pointed to one Republican senator, right? Now, again, listen to what I'm saying. We use this term racist and we throw it around and most of us don't even know what it means. But even if I look at Tim Scott, along with Colin Powell, who is another conservative, with Michael Steele, who's another conservative, right? Not rhinos, but these people are good conservatives. Now, just because they now disagree, we want to totally get rid of them, right? But the reality of even Tim Scott says, my party has to do better when it comes to reaching African Americans. That's not me, that's Tim Scott, right? I mean, if I look at what, it's true. And so there's a recognition that he understands that my party is lacking. And what the Republican Party has to do is it has to ask itself, how did we lose the Black vote? Prior to the 1960s, right? 1940, Blacks overwhelmingly voted Republican. Those are facts.
Yeah.
The majority of Blacks now, we still go to church. So for the most part, we're a little bit more conservative when it comes to morale. So what the Republican Party has to do is it has to ask themselves, how did we lose the black vote? Because
Well,
Donald Trump got 8%, right? Prior to, the majority of blacks tend to vote Democratic. And I think one reason is because of an interest. You can say, well, we give them stuff, but we give stuff to people all the time. We give tax cuts to people, so we get their vote.
Okay, you're asking what the Republicans have to do to help Black people understand why it's important for them to maybe be conservative. I would say that
no, I didn't say that, because I didn't say that
and manipulated. Well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. Instead of saying what the Republicans should do, I think we could say what the Democrats should stop doing. They should stop pandering, and then every 4 years do whatever it takes to get the black vote, and then decades go on and they do nothing for the schools, nothing for the communities and inner cities, nothing except make them worse, except keep people dependent on the government. So I would ask, what does the Democratic Party need to stop doing to fool and manipulate the black vote? Because we are emotional people and we have been bamboozled. We something for us, and every 4 years the trickery continues, the foolery continues, and then we realize, dang, nothing's happened. Well, that's because, isn't that the definition of insanity? If you do the same thing over and over again and you don't get different, it's like we need different results. So it's time for people to start thinking. I think black people are more conservative.
Don't you? Right, and that's the wait, hold on, and that's the thing now. Black Democrats are telling people, let's just get Trump, and we gotta get Trump out of office. Let's just get him out of office and worry about that later. Even Michelle Obama basically said at the Democratic National Convention, everybody just fall in line, just vote Trump out. We gotta vote Biden, and then we'll worry about all that stuff later. And no, like, why should we accept your aspirations? You know what I'm saying? As hope that, okay, if we vote for Biden, we're really going to get something. What did it do for black people in 47 years? You know what I'm saying? And the one thing he did do, he also, his crime bill locked up a lot of people. So, I mean, people just have to really wake up, and they just have to have some courage to speak up and say, no, look, we want something for our vote. We're not just going to the polls and freely giving you our vote, even if it means that your candidate don't get in and the Republicans win again. We want something for our vote. We're not about to just keep giving our vote away. And that is the issue that is on the table right now. And not enough black Dems are speaking up. They're just giving their vote away.
Well, hold on. Let me say this. I think people on both sides do that, right? People say people voted for Obama because he was black. Well, how many people voted against him because he was black? People voted, right, for a particular candidate because they see some type of representation. So for the same question that we ask one side, we could pose to the other side. People are going to be people regardless. Whatever party somebody's in, people are going to be people. Now we can shake our head and say, well, this person give us this, and we need to do this as black people. But I want to go back to what has a black Democrat done. Number one, and I can look at Minnesota, and I can look at somebody like Amy Klobuchar, right? Well, we saw her flaw when she didn't prosecute the Philando Castile. But now, if you put somebody who looked like me, Keith Ellison, as Attorney General, then he has a different perspective. So now the more people who can represent and experience the things that you experience, guess what? Those people will reflect your interests. And so those are just facts. I don't care if it's on the left. I don't care if it's on the right. I didn't come here to bash a particular party. I didn't come here to bash the president, right? We could talk about
racist, though. I think that's racist. Because what are you assuming? Are you assuming that somebody looks like you, thinks like you?
No,
There's black Democrats and Republicans.
No, listen, for example, I play basketball. You're a math teacher. And you could have a conversation with other math teachers that you probably can't have with a reading teacher. Now, you guys have some things in common, but there's a certain level that you could discuss and have those conversations. Why? Because from a math standpoint, you guys probably seen some of the same struggle. I don't care if you're a massage therapist. it's that way, right? Because if I say, well, what about this person, right? I remember when the thing with JFK was he was Catholic, right? He was Catholic, right? He looked like them, but he was Catholic. He wasn't a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. He didn't look like us. He didn't represent us. And I think what we got to do is we got to just stop, everybody breathe, and realize that people are going to be people. Now, when people say, well, you know what, Democrats need to be educated, do you know how many Republicans need to be educated too? So it's that whole concept. I've been in ministry since 1989. And you are amazed at people who go to church their entire life and don't understand basic Bible doctrine. They hold on to these things. They believe it because people told them. It's no different in politics. People do this, whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Republican. So my challenge for people is to, you know what, find out, research for yourself, and vote in your best interest, whatever that interest is. If it's Republican, vote that way. If it's Democratic, vote that way. And you have to, in this day, you have to get rid of the noise that comes from both sides. Over to you.
I agree, but you said that somebody that looks like you would want to maybe have in office, or somebody who looks like you as a PA. You said that because they come with a different perspective and they might understand you. Sure. But what I'm saying is you can't assume that Black person thinks like you, or, so at the end of the day, you're judging somebody by the color of their skin instead of their content of who they are, because there's Black Republicans. And so you can't assume that somebody's going to, just because they're Black, think like you.
No.
That's that identity politics stuff that's going on.
No, wait, hold on. And the reason I say this is this. Because if you had Herman Cain running, you didn't have Black folks in line to vote for Herman Cain. You didn't. Allen West, you didn't have Black folk in line. So Black folk don't just vote on skin color. We vote with people who feel the same way we do about some of the things that we do. Those are facts. And so, look,
you didn't say that though.
No. And again, if I didn't say it, I probably misspoke, or you probably misheard what I said. Because I would never say vote for somebody because they look like you. But it's interesting because the moment Donald Trump did say, well, this Mexican judge can't do his job because he's from Mexico. And then you have somebody like a Paul Ryan who immediately comes out and say, you know what, that was a racist statement. So when we start talking about things, right, then we have to apply it, not just to Joe Biden. We have to apply it to Donald Trump. Joe Biden has a history of policy that he needs to be held accountable for, and he needs to reckon. Shoot some of the things that Joe Biden said. We know he makes those gaffes, but the reality of it is we also know what's probably in that heart, and we need to hold him accountable. But you know who else we need to hold accountable? We also need to hold Donald Trump accountable. We need to hold Donald Trump accountable and say, hey, look, now Donald, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked, did you ever use the N-word? She never denied it. Then we have the ABC Apprentice tapes that is going around saying, well, he used the N-word. We don't know. They won't release it. His niece said, well, you know what? It was commonplace in our home. His attorney says, yeah, Donald Trump, he said some stuff, and then I listened to the people who helped write, the guy who helped write his book, great book called The Art of the Deal, which I read over and over. I'm not anti-Trump. I read all of his books with an exception of the few that says Donald Trump has a problem with Black people. Not in terms of, well, I don't want to be around them. I don't want them count my money. I don't want them in charge. And then the person that used to be VP of his casino say, well, he never hired a Black person, or it's been on record that he discriminated against Black people in terms of rental. Those are things that we can prove.
Vaughn,
what?
He has appointed Black people, and it's in the Republican Party if you look at it too. So.
Wait, we're going based on
Vaughn,
what
that
I
sounds
just
like
said.
gossip. You're not saying any facts. You're not saying any policies.
Wait,
his niece or whatever who's next to grind.
No, listen.
Hearsay.
Okay, well,
hearsay.
No, wait. Hold on. And I agree with that. If it just, hold on. If I take what one person says, right, then yeah. But when it happens over and over, and you have a history of discriminating against Black folk. Then your VP of a company says it. Then your attorney says it. Then somebody else said it. Now, it could be totally false.
Right. Look at his policies.
Wait. Now, again, when we talk about his policies, I named a couple policies, right? The fact that he invests so much in private prisons. So when we talk about Joe Biden 1994 crime bill, and there's a privatization of prisons, well, it's for profit. What are we going to do? Are we going to lock people up? That's a policy, right? The consent and decree policies, right? Cutting Pell Grants, policy.
Okay, listen, let's change gears here, okay? Everybody just be the judge. I mean, we got two candidates. Like if you're gonna call one a racist, you need to call the other one. So that's that. So I want to switch and talk about Black Lives Matters. What's your take on that? Are they protesters or are they violent terrorists and anarchists? Because as we see, the country is under attack, especially in the Democrat cities. We see all this violence going on. You got Portland, you got Kenosha, Seattle, you got Minneapolis, all these different states, they're actively protesting today, and it's violence. It's not peaceful. The mainstream media calling them peaceful protesters. And then if you look and see what happened after the Republican National Convention, you see them out in the streets, icon rioters, because they were causing a riot. They may not have been looting. I didn't call them looters, but they were just disturbing, the peace. Peaceful protest is not getting in people's face, pushing people and, flipping them off with the fingers and messing with older people. That is not peaceful protesting. So yes, I'm going to call those people rioters. So what is your whole take on this whole civil unrest? It has to come to an end. We need to put a leader in office who is going to be able to control this. So what is your take on this? Oh, and one more thing. And what's his name? Jim Blake. He recently made a proposal, created a bill. It's called the Protect Peaceful Protest Act. And what he wants to do is take away enhanced unemployment, that $600 to the federal supplement. He wants to take that away for anyone who is convicted of a crime. Basically as a deterrent, as a penalty. What Trump did when people were removing all those monuments and stuff, he used that executive order for 10-year penalty if you remove a statue. And when he did that, boom, people stopped doing it. So that's kind of the idea of this bill. So two questions I'm asking. What is your take on the Black Lives Matter protests and them turning violent, and then also the bill proposed to do away with their PUA benefits? Who's gonna go?
You know what? I don't really. Here's my thing. As far as an opinion, I think we should look at BLM as to exactly who they say that they are, and listen to them. Learn about who they are. Go to their website. Learn that they are Marxists because they came out and said it. Now, there's people who are like, okay, it's true. They want to dismantle the nuclear family. They want to dismantle the Constitution. They want to defund the police. They believe in communities raising one another. And if you look at what we believe on their website, you'll see all of this. So take it for what it's worth. Now, people like you and I say, but that's the organization. I support BLM, the movement. These are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Because what happens is when you support the movement, you're supporting the organization. They are getting over multi-millions of dollars, and they're saying right now that they don't need to disclose what they're doing with it. They refuse to answer explicit questions. Now in 2019, 46% went to consultant fees and a quarter went to salary, benefit, and payroll. Did that help the community in any way? You tell me. All of the over $50 million, is that helping the community and now they're working on curriculum. So that is the organization. Now the movement on the street is obviously becoming more popular, and that is supporting their mission. You see all cops are bad. You see ACAB on the street. You see defund the police on the street. You see the violence. You see that. You see anarchy. You see them saying, let's defund the police. And the thing is that you can't separate the two, because we're seeing their mission happen on the streets. We are fulfilling their mission by supporting it. I support Black lives in a different way. Okay, because I believe that Black lives matter. Right. My son is Black, but I'll tell you this: it's more dangerous for him to wear a MAGA hat than it is right now. It's more dangerous for him to wear a MAGA hat than it is to be stopped by the police. Those are facts.
Wow. Go ahead. What's your take, Vine?
Well, I think when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I think the question is, do they? And I think the answer to that question is yes. And so when people ask me that question, I am by no means a supporter of the movement in terms of the organization. I don't believe a lot of their stuff. But man, since I was in college, guess what I found out? I found out that Black Lives Matter, right? I realized something. I had experience as a child when it comes to police brutality. And so I think what we've learned to do in America, especially being Black, is we had to pick and choose. I mean, we literally did, because I was the person who, when I would ride my bike on one side of Saginaw, cross the bridge, well, I was the person who got taken, and I was going to see my grandfather at the time, who was president of UAW. And the cops put you in the car and they ask you where you're going. And see, so I understand that. I know what it's like to be handcuffed, and they ask you, can they search your car? And they handcuff you on the curb, and then they take your back seat out. I understand that stuff. And so for me, I fight against police brutality. Now, it's always interesting that we always seem to make one side the anarchist. But the reality of it is, again, people are going to be people. That's the one thing we have to recognize. People will be people. While you have some people on the left that could be anarchists, you have a whole bunch of people on the right that's anarchists as well. I think just recently, you had a group of people who was shooting the protesters with paintballs, right? But the reality of it is, everybody needs to be held accountable. And what it's like is you got two children, and everybody is escalated with their emotions. And so somebody has to come down, and they have to learn to de-escalate the situation and say, everybody take a deep breath. We need to have this conversation.
So you feel like it's a lack of leadership from Trump? You feel like it's Trump's duty to just bring in all of the federal marshals and just get them to end all this stuff? Or do you feel that it's the governors? The governors aren't asking for Trump to, bring in the feds so they can get rid of this problem. Like they brought in the feds in Kenosha, and I think they stopped all of that in like 24 hours. So why aren't Democrat, governors calling on the feds to solve their issues instead of letting these people? And some of these cities, they are burning fires and looting, business owners, what I'm saying? They're suffering. So why is all this stuff still going on and nobody doing anything about it? You feel like it's a failure of Trump's? It's a failure in Trump's leadership or the governors?
They still want to let a crisis go to waste. So
hold on.
We're in crisis mode.
I'm sorry.
You're capitalizing on it. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
I was saying, because
go
ahead.
Right. I played sports, right? And if the team lost, the head coach got the blame. Just period. If the team won, guess who got the blame? The head coach. Now, you also had other people involved. You had the quarterback who would get a lot of the blame. You had the defensive coach who would get a lot of the blame or a lot of the praise. So I like to go back to Trump words when he said it starts with the person in leadership. And I've watched enough Celebrity Apprentice to know what Trump would have done is he would have fired the person. And I remember him saying this over and over and over again on The Apprentice, but it happened on your watch. You were in charge.
Yeah, but okay, so we got governors, and it's their job to govern the state. And not only that, but let's just look at, is this solving the problem? What we see happening, if it's a peaceful protest, I'm all for it. That's not happening. People are looting at night and burning down buildings and violence. I think, this is what I think. This is a solution I think should happen. I say, just like Trump instituted a curfew for COVID, I think there should be a curfew. And I think the governor should implement it and there should be strict punishment for it. Because at the end of the day, why do you need to protest at midnight? Why? You know what?
Right.
Well,
if you want to be clean, you can't even night. So there should be a curfew for protesting. Yeah. Some you might say, oh, well, now you want us to have guidelines for protesting. No, listen, we need to have law and order in the streets. People's lives are being ruined. Communities are going to come out worse. When the dust settles, we're not going to be ahead. We're going to be behind. We're going to see the devastation, and then we're going to realize how bad it was and how all of this could have been avoided if we just peacefully protested and then looked at solutions. What are the solutions? Obama said one of the solutions before. He said father absence is one of the most important reasons, consequences that we have in our Black communities in terms of what is ruining our inner cities and ruining our Black communities and ruining our families. You've been married 26 years, Von. I'm pretty sure to you, these are the things that we need to talk about. How jobs are going to help people get out of poverty, how we can transform our city. BLM's solution is to make it so that our Constitution is basically dismantled. The nuclear family is dismantled. Patriarchal homes are just, you know what, that's so old school that we don't need that anymore. We need villages to raise our families. So they are not giving us a solution to actually help our communities. So this Band-Aid, I don't even call it a Band-Aid. I would say this is taking a wound and stabbing it.
Well,
it's not a Band-Aid. It's not a fix. This is not a solution. This is going to divide us more. We are going to be more divided after this.
Well, let me say this. The fact is we've always been divided. Our church is divided. And that's why it's important for level heads to prevail. And I think we got to remember that right now. On the other side, you said something, and I wanted to go there, but I just couldn't because I totally forgot. But the reality of it is, we have to ask ourselves this question: why are people still protesting? I remember studying Dr. King, and what people don't realize is Dr. King lost a lot of support from Black pastors. And the reason he lost their support was two things. Number one, there was a rise of Malcolm X and his philosophy. And the second thing was Black pastors were afraid, because if Dr. King came into their town and once he left, the police presence with the people or for the pastors who accepted Dr. King was tough, because it was a saying, we don't want you to get all these Negroes riled up here, so don't let King come here, right? And so I think the reality of it, we still protesting kind of the same stuff. See, when Pookie shoots Pookie, very rarely does Pookie not get arrested. Pookie gets arrested and Pookie goes to jail. However, we have to identify, why is it subconsciously, and I'm going to leave with this example, why is it subconsciously that cops prejudge Black people? And I want to leave with this. I think it'll take about 2-3 minutes. This is my concept of racism. I have a good friend, right, who isn't the type of racist that says, I want Black people and slaves. He isn't that type of racist, okay? But subconsciously, based on how he grew up, he feels that on the inside somehow that he's a little bit better. So we went downtown Detroit. We were going to the Tigers game. And he called me. He drove a BMW. I drove a Chevy Avalanche. And he said, Von, I want to take your car downtown Detroit, because if I take my car, they're going to steal my car. This is my friend. This is a guy I love. I've coached his kids, right? He thought because he had a BMW, he'd go downtown Detroit. Downtown is a safe place. They aren't going to steal his car, right? But I had a truck that had chrome rims. So the reality of it is they would have stolen my truck before they stole his car, okay? Now, I get greeted by a Black homeless person. He grabs me and he says, Von, don't give him any money. You can't believe anything they say, right? I mean, just subconsciously. That's, I'm like, I dealt with Black people before, homeless and everything else. But leaving, there was a white guy with the sign that said, former Iraqi veteran, please help. What do you think my friend did? even without thinking. Guess what he did? He give him the money. So what happens a lot of time is when the cops see the black person, they immediately prejudge them with being guilty first, rather than they see somebody. And you say that's not the case. Well,
there's no data to support that.
Well, you can say that, but the reality of it is, in history, black, darker skinned men has always seemed to be a threat. So why is it that most of the men that are unarmed, that are shot, are darker skinned? That's a fact. Now, it don't mean that you don't have James Blake, who was a professional tennis player, who gets arrested coming out the bank, or the Thunder, Cephalosha, the Thunder player who get his leg broke and he's light skinned, or John Crawford who gets shot in Walmart, he's light skinned. But for the most part, it's darker skin. Racism is so prevalent in America that even blacks practice it on themselves with the whole colorism and dark skin. We got to get out of that.
But that's something that as a people, we exude, or we have, and that's an individual bias that we have. We don't have a system set up for that. So I'll leave with this. At the end of the day, when we look at the pie, we look at the percentage in terms of Black people that commit murders and violent crime, we see it disproportionately. Now, we might have an excuse for it and say, well, that's because of systemic racism in the past.
No.
That's because more of them are convicted. That's because more, but what we're doing is we're making an excuse for this disproportionality. And the reality is we don't have a white supremacy problem. We have a criminality problem. And if we don't solve the criminality problem, which would actually give us a solution, we're never, ever, ever to be able to come out of this. So that means that we look, let me finish because I let you finish.
Yes,
that means we look at the solutions, and I apologize.
No, it's okay. Go right ahead, hon. I appreciate you.
She's going to go the other way through the garage. She made a little cameo. That means that we look at the problem and then we look at a viable solution. Mm-hmm. So if we do think that, okay, there's a problem here in our inner cities or in our urban communities, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to call it inner cities. We can just say cities that are struggling financially. If we see that there's more crime there, pointing the finger to the white man is not going to solve it. Okay. No. What we need to do is actually fix the communities. We have to take the abandoned buildings, get rid of them, and turn them into businesses. We have to teach people, let our parents choose what schools they want to send their children to so that they can compete, because schools can compete just like our free market and capitalism can compete. And that's going to make everybody better. And we should want to make everyone better through just innovative ideas, and you not settling for mediocrity, but you saying, I have to compete and I want my students to be the best. And the reason why we see the discrepancy in the scores is because of that competitive nature. Now, at the end of the day, that means education and our families. That's what's going to solve the problem at the end of the day. And I wholeheartedly believe, and I'm going to say it, that the left is anti-God. And I'm going to say that the far left is anti-God. And I think I know that there's evidence to support that.
I don't think
and as a born-again believer, I can't vote for a party that believes in oppressing students by keeping them in a failing school, that believes in aborting our babies. I want more Black children to be born, not less. And I know there's a discrepancy. There's definitely a disproportionality in terms of the placement of abortion clinics in Black communities over whites. And you can say there's a reason for that. But at the end of the day, it exists. And Margaret Sanger was, she was a racist, and that's how she started Planned Parenthood. So let's judge it by the roots. Let's look at all of this. And at the end of the day, every single item that I think of as a human being that's important to me is completely on the opposite side of the left. And so I do think that this is a left versus right. I think we're that polarized to where we can say this side is anti-God. This side is for bigger government. This side is for oppressive policies. And I can't vote for that at all. Well, we need to do our homework. I think it's very important.
You know what? That's kind of fine. I've been in ministry since 1989. So I hear what you're saying. Okay. Now, it's interesting. If you heard what I said earlier, you heard that I said we can't look to the president to solve our problems. We have to do that. Do you remember I said that?
That's important. But they
No,
also
wait, wait,
are.
wait, wait. No, no, excuse me. No, no, let's go back. Do you remember I said that?
I remember, I recall you
okay.
saying that.
Right,
That's
exactly
important.
right. So, right. So to throw it up as if I don't believe that would be incorrect. Number two, in terms of Margaret Sanger, like most people, she had her problems and issues of race, right? But it's also interesting when Margaret Sanger came out and Planned Parenthood came out, they were anti-abortion. Now you can ask what happened. They were pro-birth control, and their first clinic wasn't in a Black area, right? It just wasn't. Those are facts. Now, what we have to do.
Where was it at? Just so our viewers can research that.
It was in New York. It was in New York, and it was not in a Black place, right? And it's interesting because she had a project called the Negro Project, which she had people helping, like W.E.B. Du Bois and some other. And when you really look at it, Dr. King and Malcolm X, right? In the event that she would have been that radical, they would have addressed it. I'm not saying she didn't have racial issues like most people of her day that look like her, right? What I am saying is that we need to let truth be true. Now, in terms of us solving the issue, we can solve the issue. To say that this party is anti-God, well, it was a Black pastor who was preaching to his congregation or teaching Bible study who represented a Democrat who was killed by a white supremacist. That was Dylan Roof. So let's not act like, well, this party is a party of God. What we got to realize, at least from a believer standpoint, hold on. What we got to realize is God, there is no one party that contains the God that you and I believe. God would be more independent than he is Republican or he would be Democratic. That is just a fact. And when people say color don't matter, remember Jesus spoke to the Jews and Paul talked to the Jews about Gentiles. He talked and he made it. He didn't look at the Samaritan woman and say, well, she's a part of the human race. He says she's a Samaritan. They talked about her being a Samaritan woman other than what we are, a Gentile. So it's okay to have these ethnicities that we talk about. What is not okay is when we believe that one is better than the other.
Of course. And that's why it's important for us to not judge by our pigment, but judge by the content of our character.
I agree with that.
I think Reverend King's words should hold true. And I feel like at the end of the day, that there's a difference. Oh, did we go over? Sorry. I just wanted to, when I was addressing that last 2 minutes, I was just saying my view. I wasn't attacking Von. I wasn't attacking you. It was more or less, you ended with your 2 to 3 minutes on what you believed, and I ended with my 2 to 3 minutes on what I believe as far as the left versus the right. It wasn't a slight on you, and it wasn't a response to anything you have said today. It's how I personally feel about the left and the right. And yes, there's KKK members that are on the right and on the left. You know, Richard Spencer just said, I made a mistake voting for Donald Trump, and he joined, and now he's voting for Biden. Now, he was on, mentioned on about 6 months ago.
Girl, these are all talking points.
Let me see. This is not a talking point. Did you watch The View with Whoopi Goldberg 6 months ago when they said, and the audience members clapped, that he felt that Donald Trump wasn't living out his mission and that he is upset and he is thinking about leaving? So guess what the audience of The View did? You can look this up. I posted it on my Facebook. They all clapped about it.
Yeah,
so
and they should have clapped.
For a racist joining their party. So we know there are racists on both sides. That's not what's important. What's important is the platform, the policies, and what you believe in and what you vote for and what is on your ticket. So let's look at the policies and not look at crazy individuals on either side.
I brought up certain policies, right? And one of the things you talked about the First Step Act. Donald Trump needs to be given credit for the stuff that he does that's good. But he also needs to be held accountable for the stuff that he does that's not so good. And I think what happens, and I'm reeling this right, it reminds me of when Bill Clinton was going through what he was going through. The morality party, you know, and the Democratic Party. And what happens, the problem is when we get in and we dig in and we say, I'm right, you wrong. Politics is about coming together, compromising, and looking at what's best for the people. And in terms of Richard Spencer, it's interesting because Joe Biden immediately came out and said, I don't want your help. I don't want your support. And in closing, I don't remember recalling that from Donald Trump when he was endorsing him.
He disavowed white supremacists over 14 times on the campaign trail, and I posted those videos as well. So you can watch those videos. Truth matters, and truth is very important.
I've seen those videos, but again, I would say this: it took them a while. No. Listen to what I'm saying.
You said you don't recall Donald Trump doing that or disavowing, but then you just told me you did the videos.
No, what I said is this: I don't remember him disavowing Richard Spencer's endorsement. I remember him being asked if he knew David Duke. He said no, but in times past, he brought him up. See, I don't want to have these talking points because we'll go back and forth. What the person has to be is that person has to be, but again, is it true, right? Because it was a fact that Donald Trump, it was a fact that it was a fact that Donald Trump say, I don't know Stormy Daniels. But the truth was he knew him. So what we got to do is we have to navigate through that. And what people have to do is they have to be educated about why they vote for who they vote for.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really important. But you just brought up Stormy Daniels and diverted from the topic at hand, which was disavowing a white supremacist. But that's okay, because that happens a lot in debates. Let's stay focused, in my opinion. But it happens.
And you brought up Richard Spencer.
So listen. We are running out of time. So, minute, I want you to both give your final thoughts. Like, everybody has been so engaged. I don't think it was going to be this many comments. I was trying to keep up. So many people have been commenting on the feed, but you guys were just debating back and forth, which was very robust. Here to give me for thank you tonight. But 60 seconds. Go, Alecia.
Oh, 60 seconds. Okay. You know what? I just want to end in prayer.
Final words.
If that's okay. Can I end in prayer? I usually start with prayer. Can I end with it? Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you right now for the time that we get to spend time with one another and just go back and forth and share ideas. Lord, you gave us a thought process to reason, a mind to reason. And we just ask that you just really guide us in all that we do and guide our hearts and our minds to not only just be led by our what we believe in, but that it be transcended through logic and through your word and through truth, Lord, because at the end of the day, no matter who is in office, you reign as King. And these people that are here are only here for 4 years, Lord, but help us to further your mission and to spread the gospel and the good news of Jesus Christ across the earth. Amen.
Amen. Well, I just want, I just want to say, I would like for people to be educated about who they vote for and why they vote for. I'm not going to say vote for this person, don't vote for that person. But what I will say is, just like most people, you will probably vote what's your best interest. I am tired of uneducated voters. I am, right? But I realize that people are going to be people. And at the end of the day, I don't care what color you are, whether you're Republican or Democrat, the thing that we have to remember is that our goal is to make America a more perfect union.
I thought you was about to say, make America great.
I know.
Well, wait, hold on. Wait. I got Johnny Kerr to say Republicans are the only ones that pray. That would not necessarily be true. I didn't have to pray because she did such a great job. And remember, you could say amen to a prayer that you are in agreement with.
Amen to that.
Yes. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on Nurse Charms Live tonight. You guys were phenomenal. You rocked this debate out. I mean, I learned so much from hearing different perspectives. This was amazing. I'm sure that all the people on the thread tonight learned a lot as well. And we're just going to end it on this note. And thanks for the prayers. You guys have a good night. All right. Thanks
for having me, Nurse.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
God bless.
Yeah, engaging. God bless
Yes.
you too. It was great. It was great meeting you all. Have a good night.
All right. Good night.
Bye. I'm trying to end here.